Hi there, welcome to Fill PCI SAQs yourself. And this series that I'm going to focus on would be related to filling individual SAQs. So we're going to start off with the SAQ type A, and I'm going to go over different sections. And I think, it would make sense to kind of create playlists instead of just creating one video, because one video would be a really lengthy video, and I think it would lose the attention of the viewers. So I think we'll just focus on different sections. With that said, let's jump right onto it. So we'll go over the SAQA, and you can either search it, via the search bar here. Let's see what it returns. Yeah, so you can either search it via the search bar there, and we need to focus on pcidss version 4.0, okay, because the 2.1 that was retired in March of this year, and so that's why we'll have to focus on 4.0. So this is one way of reaching this document, of finding this document. And the other way of finding this document would be to go to resources. And under resources, you can go to the document library. And under the document library, you can search for either all documents, or let's do it this way. So you can see here PCIDSS AOC for service providers and PCIDSS AOC for merchants. So this is basically one document that you would need, but this is for the attestation of compliance. So you would need two documents. You would need the questionnaire itself, which you'll have to fill. And then this is, think of the AOC as the concise version of the questionnaire. So this is definitely a document that you would need. But this one would not require you to go into detail. This would just require you to go, at a very high level. The document that you should focus on is the document that I showed you before, which is the SAQ type A. And I'm not sure where they have kept this, but again, if you just come to this page, the document library, and if you just search for SAQA, you can directly search it from here. So you see, I'm not sure where in the filters it would lie, but I think, this is one of the ways. So you can just go to SAQA, and then you can kind of download this document. So you see, this is a self-assessment questionnaire. So this is the questionnaire that we'll have to fill, and then this is the attestation of compliance. Okay, both are different, yet they are related to each other. So you'll have to maintain both in order to demonstrate compliance. So let's go over the questionnaire again. So again, the first thing you need to make sure is that you download the 4.0 version of the self-assessment questionnaire. And then all of these are fine. These are just the document changes. So these are like the contents of the document. And there are some, rules and instructions for filling this questionnaire, basically. And then there's the, you know, definitions of account data, cardholder data, and sensitive authentication data. So you can obviously, read this. There's no harm in, reading this. But I think, again, for the purposes of this video, we'll just skip to the main content. And it's also important so that, we cut to the chase and your time is saved, rather than going through literally everything. So I want to focus on section 1 here, and also part 2 here. And I think we're going to stop at section 1 and section 2. And so that ends here. But from the subsequent videos, we'll actually dive deep into the questionnaires. So let's go over section 1. So section 1 is just about, understanding your company's details, basically. So you can put the company name here, and you can put the DBA is doing business as, so you can put the company, legal name here. So that's important. So a lot of companies kind of, have their company name as, let's say, the name of their product. But then they usually have like a different legal name. So that's why they want to capture both. And then these are self-explanatory, I guess. So, they want the mailing address, your website, your contact name, your contact title, phone number, and email address. So the contact name could be the name of the person who is either driving, this PCI compliance for their company, or, the the name of the compliance lead, or if there is no compliance or information security department, then the name of anybody at the management position should be fine. Then for self-assessment questionnaires, and because this is a self-assessment questionnaire, typically involving an assessor, like a PCI internal security assessor, is not mandatory. Okay. But if you have, internally an internal security assessor in your company, or, in short, they are also called as PCI ISS, and if you involved the ISA in the filling of this questionnaire, you can definitely put their name in here. So, the name of the ISA. Or some companies, in order to kind of gain more credibility, they also involve qualified security assessors. So I think in one of the previous videos I had shown how to find out a qualified security assessor, but I'm going to show it again. So if you go to PCI qualified professionals, from there you can choose this option, qualified security assessors, and then you can select a QSA based on your location, based on your type of business, region, etc., languages, etc. So that was covered in one of the earlier videos, so I'm not going to go into details of that one. But then again, if you had engaged a qualified security assessor for filling this questionnaire, then you just need to fill in all of the details of that qualified security assessor, and you'll get this number from them as well, the assessor certificate number. Other than this, I think all of these things are self-explanatory. So the name of the company, their mailing address, website, the assessor's name, etc. Now, in part two, which is the executive summary, you'll need to indicate all the payment channels used by the business. Okay, so if you accept credit cards by mail order, telephone order, so some telecommunications companies, or some other companies which have call centers or similar IVR type of mechanisms in order to collect credit card data for credit card transactions or card transactions. They need to check this. And also, if your business is e-commerce and have an online kind of platform, then you need to check this box. And then you can, if you are a card present merchant, then you would basically need to select this. And you can do it two ways. So you can, how to fill this. You can basically download this document, and you can, kind of fill this manually by hand, or you can also, use, like PDF editors, or you can also download the Word version of it, and then you can just, kind of cross this. So Google Docs, Microsoft Word, etc., they all provide the option to, kind of cross these check boxes, or tick these check boxes. You can use those as well. So both things work. So PCI is not very, restrictive about that. Are any payment channels not included in this assessment? So, if you have any payment channels which are used for accepting credit card data, but they were not used in this assessment because of n number of reasons, that should not be the case ideally. But if it was because of any specific reason, then you would need to check that box here. But if it's a no, if it's a no. But yeah, so they mention this in the notes here. So if there's a payment channel that is not covered by this SAQ, then then it is recommended that the entity or the organization consults with the entities. Whether it's okay to submit the AOC and the SAQ without that. So if you have engaged a QSA, you would need to check with them. If you have an acquirer, you can check with them. If you the acquirer would be your bank basically. Or if you are obliged to report this to your payment processor, then you would just need to consult with them, etc. So whoever is responsible, basically, you need to keep them informed. All right. Now, for all of the for part 2B, for all of these channels that you would select here, you would need to explain like how you store, process, or transmit account data. By account data, this simply means credit card data or debit card data issued by any of those 5 card brands. Okay, so you would need to explain that. And so if, for example, if you just mention e-commerce here and how you store, process, or transmit, so let's say you mentioned like you have a form where the retail customers or the end users directly input their credit card data. And from that form, let's say you have integration with a third-party processor, like Stripe or Adyen or Ingenico, etc. They pick it up from that form through an iframe maybe, or through any other integration, and then they kind of process it on their end. So you would need to explain it as much as possible on how you store, process, or transmit data. And if you do not do any of these, like store, process, or transmit, you would need to, I mean, it's better to just mention that here as well. uh we do not store or process credit card data, we only transmit credit card data. Now, part 2C. So this is the description of the payment card environment. So here you'll have to provide a high-level description of the environment. So this would be, connections into and out of the cardholder data environment. The cardholder data environment is basically, the environment where you store, process, or transmit cardholder data. And so any system or application, by any system, yeah, I also mean application. So systems could be, databases, applications, storage servers, APIs, etc. So system is kind of a holistic term that I'll use. So you'll have to, explain that. So for example, let's say your cardholder data has an incoming connection from, let's say, third-party payment processor. So they would need to integrate into your external web server, for example, which is placed inside your cardholder data environment. You would need to mention here. And then also you would also need to mention outgoing connections. So let's say, you have like one of your important servers, or one of your, let's say, network switches connected into a patching server, let's say, or into one of your directory systems like Active Directory or Linux LDAP servers, etc. Outside of your environment. You would need to mention those connections as well. Now, you will also have to mention the critical system components within the CDE. So, any web servers which might be used to transmit cardholder data, any databases which might be used to store cardholder data, any storage servers which might be used, any, encryption systems, any hardware security modules, etc., etc. So all those things should be mentioned here. And the third thing is about system components that could impact the security of account data. So that should be also mentioned here. So system components, like I mentioned, the patching servers, because the patching servers are systems which could be used for patching all of the systems inside your cardholder data environment. And so it becomes extremely important from a security perspective, so that systems remains patched and they are not exposed to any vulnerabilities. And so for that reason, PCI requires that you keep those systems in scope, and those systems should also be mentioned here. So again, I think it's important for me to clarify this concept of a cardholder data environment a little bit. So for small organizations or for medium-sized organizations, if you have an environment where every system kind of are in the same network, irrespective of whether it's in the cloud or it's on-prem, then it's possible that your entire environment becomes a cardholder data environment. But there's a network segmentation guide that the PCI Council provides, and I'm going to cover that in detail in one of the later videos. But you can, feel free to just read this. So network segmentation, if you just type in network segmentation here, yeah, so you can see here. So if organizations use network segmentation, then they can reduce the scope, of the PCI systems to only specific systems. But again, this document here is outside of the scope of this video. But essentially, a cardholder data environment could be thought of as the environment where the card processing, transmitting, or storing takes place. And that's what they want to know here, a description of that. And the immediate, next question is indicate whether the environment includes segmentation to reduce the scope of the assessment. Okay. And so, this could be a yes or a no. It doesn't matter. So if you put yes, then, it just means like you have used segmentation. And so your environment is not in scope in its entirety. So, you have reduced kind of the scope by segmenting the network. So that's what they want to know. All right. Part 2D. in-scope locations or facilities. So here you need to put only the physical locations. And if you do not have a physical location, if you're not a big company, if you do not have your own data centers or co-locations, you can skip this. You can just put not applicable here. This is, not for organizations who have their entire infrastructure hosted on cloud service providers like AWS, GCP, Azure, etc. So it's not applicable for that. All right. And then part 2E, PCI SSC validated products and solutions. So this one basically, checks if you have used any of the PCI SSC's list of validated products and solutions. So this could be anything. So they have mentioned here what constitutes these things, the validated products and solutions, but you can also go here and check for the products and solutions listings. So listings here. So if you are, utilizing any of these, then you'll have to basically check this box here. Okay, and you'll have to provide details of all of those. And so you'll get those details anyways if you subscribe to those. So I think, this is also kind of self-explanatory. All right, now this talks about third-party service providers. Like, first of all, they want to understand if there are any third-party providers that you use for first one, storing, processing, or transmitting account data on merchant's behalf. So if you do not involve in the card transaction yourself, and if you use a payment gateway or a payment processor or payment service providers, for your credit card for your card transactions like Adyen, Ingenico, Stripe, etc., then you need to select yes here. Otherwise, it's a no. And if you use other security related vendors or other, vendors for basically providing services to any of the in-scope components. Okay. So let's say, you have an environment where you have your web server, which, has the website hosted, which accepts credit card data. And that web server has a database, and that database has, other services connected to it. And let's say that entire environment is segregated by a firewall to the rest of your environment for purposes of network segmentation. And let's say that firewall is managed by one of the external vendors, and so you do not want to keep in-house security professionals. The external vendors manage those devices for you. Then you would need to select yes here. So you can see here. But again, they should be in the scope of the cardholder data environment. Okay, so they should be part of the cardholder data environment. These are just some examples. You can, but these could be anything. And then you can see here could impact the security of the merchant's cardholder data environment. And again, it could mean in my taking the same example from the earlier point. So if there's a firewall vendor who has to remotely log into your environment to troubleshoot a firewall, maybe, so they would need access to your environment. So that could impact the security of the of your cardholder data environment as well. So that is what they want to capture here. So you'll have to mention all of those service providers, the names of the service providers here, along with the descriptions of the service provided. All right. And then part 2G. So for SAQA, which is for merchants, not all requirements apply. And so, we have requirement 2, 3, 6, 8, 9, and 12. And so you have the options to, basically say if it's in place, with a compensating control, if it's not applicable, or if it's not in place. Okay, so in place is in place if you have a control that fulfills the intent of the original requirement required by PCI. In place with compensating control, outside of the scope of this, but I'll just touch upon it briefly. If you have a control in place which does not exactly comply with what the requirement says, or yeah, does not exactly comply with what the requirement says, but then you do have a compensating control or an alternative control that kind of meets the intent of the requirement. So you can, that's also fine with PCI, but then you'll have to maintain a compensating control worksheet. So this W stands for worksheet. And then, you'll have to fill it. We're going to go over those details in subsequent videos. And not applicable is, if requirement 2 talks about something which is not applicable for your business, you just put it not applicable. And then there's also an option to put not in place. But ideally, not in place means you are not compliant. So, it's a failure straight away. All right. So these are basically, everything needs to be checked here so that you basically this ensures that you are abiding by all of these, and only then you are eligible to complete an SAQA. So the first one is that you only are a card not present merchant, meaning you don't have card present transactions at all. You're not a retail store or anything like that, and you don't have point of sale terminal systems. And then all processing of account data is entirely outsourced to a pcidss. So you do not store, process, or transmit credit card data at all, right from the point of acceptance of credit card data onto your website. It's the third-party service provider or payment processor that takes over. So you do not electronically store, process, or transmit any account data, right? So you entirely rely on a third-party services provider. So it's the same thing. Then, if you are utilizing a third-party service provider for payment transaction, this mentions that, you have reviewed their PCI DSS attestation of compliance for, accuracy and for completeness, and then the fact that you have done your due diligence, basically. So they would also need to be PCI compliant, right? Because they would be storing, processing, or transmitting credit card data on your behalf and on other customers' behalf. So I think it's really important. So you would need to tick all boxes. Okay, if any box is not ticked, then you would need to go back to the drawing board to see how to make that happen. Any account data the merchant might retain is on paper, for example, printed reports or receipts, and these documents are not received electronically. So any account data the merchant might retain is on paper, for example, printed reports or receipts, and these documents are not received electronically. So if you are, a merchant that receives any account data and it's on paper, okay, and if it's not received electronically, then you would have to basically tick this box. You are also eligible for an SAQA at that point. Additionally, all elements of the payment page or form, basically the form where customers put their account details, credit card numbers, etc., deliver to the customer's browser, originate only and directly from a PCI DSS compliant TPSP or payment processor. So that means that entire form, itself basically is provided by your third-party service provider or your payment processor. So that's what this one talks about. Then we'll go into each individual section. I think in subsequent videos. For this one, I just wanted to focus on how to fill in these 2 sections. I'm going to create again playlists. So within playlist, the first video would be section 1 and section 2, and then we'll focus on how to actually fill in these, how to actually read these, how to actually fill in these. But that's for a future video. If you have any questions, please send those in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer. That's it for this video. I would like to thank you for watching, and have a marvelous rest of the day ahead. Bye.